the single room that I lived in helped me focus on the key moments of life. When my mother pawned the wedding ring, right? Or my father gave away the last penny he had in the pocket. My mother believed in me and she created all the opportunities for me. Because everyone like me needs a chance.
Hello and a very warm welcome. I'm Angelic, and in today's episode of TYS Podcast, we are joined by someone whose story challenges how we think and restores hope. We often talk about AI as a race. Who's faster, who's smarter, who gets there first? But our guest believes we're asking the wrong question. He says this isn't a race for dominance. It's a test of responsibility, one that will shape children's futures, human dignity, and the soul of technology itself. He holds over 206 patents and has built systems for Walmart, Disney, Coca-Cola, and Pepsi. Yet, he doesn't define himself by achievements, but by accountability. So please join me in welcoming Shekhar Natarajan, founder of Orchestro.AI and creator of Angelic Intelligence. Hello Shekhar, a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much.
So Shekhar, let's start at the beginning, the very beginning. So before Orchestro.AI, before patents, before AI, there was a single room house in South India. 8 people, 1 space. So when you look back now, tell us, what did that one room teach you that no boardroom ever could?
For starters, I think love is the ultimate competitive advantage. Because all of us experienced all emotions, different emotions in the same room, by the way. 8 people having different emotions in the same room. Okay. So we could hear the silence, we could hear the happiness, we could hear the sorrows, we could hear the anger and angst, the paranoia, the shame, the sacrifice. All of that, we could experience all of it in the single room. And yet, like, what actually kept all of us together is the hope that we will get the escape velocity. Okay, so that was probably the biggest learning. But the boardroom, and basically the single room is an interesting question, because there were other facets which also got unraveled through the entire journey of my life. The first one, I would say, is a boardroom really focuses on measuring everything. But the single room that I lived in helped me focus on the key moments of life, the anomalous moments. When my mother pawned the wedding ring, right? Or my father gave away the last penny he had in the pocket. My brother, basically, despite being misunderstood by everyone for bipolarity, was able to show exceptional genius behavior, right? So it was anomalous moments like those which actually, that you were more important to me than measuring everything. Boardroom teaches you to focus on quarterly results. But my mother and my father were focused on generational values. So thinking long term versus short term. That was another key learning that I had. That sacrifice means more than efficiency. That was another key learning that I had. And furthermore, I think like the dignity, though we lived in poverty, made us believe that we don't have to compromise for anything in life, right? Because in an executive position, you begin to compromise on your values. You hate doing things. You regret that you are the person you are, but you still end up doing it because you're subservient to the system, right? Though we had poverty and we were living in poverty, we never sacrificed and compromised on our values. So I think those were all the formative years that made me who I am as a person.
But like you just mentioned, your mother pawned her wedding ring. That is one moment in your story that stays with me. So just 30 rupees between you and education. So tell me, when did you find out and what did that moment do to you?
Well, to be honest with you, I did not know about it like much further into my life, right? Like, in the sense that, I was probably age 15 when my aunt accidentally told me that, like, your mother actually pawned the wedding ring to get your education. And then when I went and asked her, hey, like, did you do this? She said, like, you are the biggest gift that I have in my life. And of course, I'm going to, give up a piece of jewelry because I believe in your potential. The fact that she could see things that I could not see, the non-obvious, right, was a single moment that actually made me crumble internally, but also made me resilient as a person, right? So I think that was a key defining moment, because this happened when I was age 6, okay, that my mother pawned the wedding ring. And the significance of that is very important, Gitanjali, as you know, right? The toe ring represents a woman's womanhood, like, that someone chose her, right? And losing that identity for the dignity of a child and the future, only a mom can do that. Only a mom can do that. So that, was a moment that stayed with me. And yes, I went through a lot of trauma growing up. But I kept telling myself, if my mother did what she did, that she was willing to lose her identity for my future, cannot not take the sacrifice in the short term that I'm experiencing today. Like, I had to sleep in a car for 2 weeks because I could not pay rent. And this was not like ancient history. This was 2005, by the way, 20 years ago. Okay? So I just finished, I wrapped up all my father's, cremation, and I had to stay here in the country for 2 months for a whole host of reasons. And then when I went back, I was in a family leave of absence. I went and I didn't have a place to stay. And so I lived in a car. I worked 5 jobs. My brother was almost about to get deported. And I basically, we both fought through, and we did what was legally right. And we were able to secure our future. But there were so many dark moments in the life. And this moment of my mother pawning the ring stayed with me, and I could fight through every one of those moments not with happiness. Never happy in the context, by the way. But, you want to make sure that what she did is more valuable. There is value to that sacrifice.
That it doesn't go to waste.
That doesn't go to waste because someone believed in you, and you can never let that person down. Right? Whether it is your spouse now, whether it is basically your mother, whether it's your father, whether the promise you make to your son, you can never let your loved ones down. And that was a key defining moment for me.
And you've called that the first code in your life. So tell me, when you designed Orchestro.AI, what part of that moment did you consciously encode into the system?
That dignity is more important, right? The dignity is very important, and elevating the invisible. My mother saw something in me. I was an invisible kid in the slum. Everyone thought I'm living in slums, right? So no one dared to believe in me. And my mother believed in me, and she created all the opportunities for me. So I want to take everyone who's invisible and provide them the same level of dignity and hope that my mother gave. So that is what I'm trying to encode, and that was the first code I wrote into Orchestro. That I'm going to stand for uplifting the small businesses, uplifting the people around me, because there are so many invisible people. I go back to slums every time I come to India. I go back to visit the roots I came from, not because I want to revisit the trauma. I want to remind myself how fortunate I am to get the escape velocity, and I want to see all the people who have been there with me, where they are still, and that gives me the hope and the courage and the dream to get them out of that context. If God has given me something, I want to be able to give that back to them, to be able to escape with the same velocity that I did. So I think that would probably be the first line of code that I wrote, and truly is. And so the concept of what I'm trying to do in Orchestro and Angelic is sort of the embodiment of that virtue.
Okay, so you're working towards making the invisible shine.
Yes, absolutely. So that provides them dignity is the most important thing, as you can imagine. And everyone, like, a parent, a mother, a father, they all want their kids to be better than they are, right? And so I think, like, if I take the role of that parent for every child out there who is like underprivileged, and every father who now deserves a son who could actually stand up with them, and we're able to provide the access to Medicare, and the access to, like, a cremation. Like, most people can't even afford cremation, by the way, Gitanjali, in this country. So I would like for people's dignity to be restored. That's the most important thing for me.
So, like you just said, your family made a lot of sacrifices. Your mother never went to school, but you went to MIT, right? So what values or what habits did she teach you that helped you succeed?
The mind. She created my mind. So I think, I think every day till the day she could not talk. She recently passed away 4 weeks ago, like 8 weeks ago, November 4th. So every day when I talked to her, she would ask me only one thing, religiously, even today: did you learn something new today? She never used to ask what grade you made, like, are you winning some award, what title you have, how much money you make, what do you do. In fact, she never wanted to leave the house my father built. She kept asking us always is, did you learn something new? And the curiosity with which she would ask this question, right? She was not educated, she did not go to school, she did not basically understand, she could not get us, like, tutors. She would do nothing, but she would sit with me when I'm learning, and she would be looking at me, and I would be reading, and then I would try to explain to her what I'm learning. So that skill taught me two things. That question, like, the ability to interact with my mother on a daily basis till age 17, right? I would need to understand the concept very deeply. Right? Because I have to teach my mother, who is not, like, literate, by the way.
Yes.
The second thing is, I have to put it in a way that she understands it. Right? So taking a very complex topic and simplifying it, becoming a storyteller, and being able to go very deep in one thing and being able to fully grasp it. Believe it or not, if you practice that a lot, you become excellent in life.
Right, so that made your basics even stronger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is probably the single biggest reason for why I was able to pursue the education in the places I did, because you develop the acumen of two things: being able to grab and grasp the obvious and the non-obvious at the detail level, look at it in a three-dimensional way, and being able to simplify and being able to relate that to people who are novice to it and don't understand it. So my role in every company that I worked was one of transformation. And transformation is all about seeing the non-obvious, transforming the company's capabilities, and telling why people should follow that. So you're a change leader. So these skills actually even not only stayed with me in my school, but also carried during my professional life.
So you moved to America with just $34 and zero confidence. So tell me, how was that lack of confidence harder than the lack of money?
Money you can count. Confidence you can't buy. I always grew up thinking that you're not as good. Like, you're in the wrong context. You don't belong in certain rooms. You don't belong to certain spaces. You don't belong to, like, people like kick me out of library because I was a kid from slums. People used to wash the house as soon as I left. So not because of the caste I belong, but the place I came. And this is happening like in 1980s and 90s. This is not, I'm talking about like Ramanujam time, right? This is like, so people are still so backward in their thinking that I experienced all of this. And so it begins to play on your mind that you don't belong. So I carried the mind of an immigrant when I was born, that you don't belong. And when I went there, I had the same mindset of how I was in a slum is when I was in United States. I thought like I don't belong here. I don't belong to this culture. My accent is not there. I probably don't deserve to go to Georgia Tech. I don't deserve to basically earn the money I'm earning. All those things, and your mind begins to play games with you mostly. So I had to work very hard. It didn't take me like 1 day, 5 days, 10 days. It took me 10 years to escape out of that thinking that you do belong, you deserve. And once that mind flips that, then sky is the limit. I came to United States with like $34. When my father passed away, I went back to United States again with $50 in 2005 because I spent all the money on his medical procedures, and I just started earning money when I was in Coke, and my father's thing happened. And so I almost restarted my life twice. And I told myself, what the heck is going to happen here? Like, I'm not going to lose anything in life. So be it. So that set my mind free. And that actually liberated me. And I said, you know what? Heck with it. I will live the way I am. I will do what I want to do. And people will respect me for what I do, not how I look and whether I belong or not. In your heart, you need to know what you're doing. You have to be clean in your conscience. You have to put your intent out. And you have to work your ass off. And then definitely angels will show up in your life and they will open the door for you.
Yeah. But do you still fear losing it all?
Well, I think that fear of losing all is a refugee mindset, right? And sometimes I do feel that, to be honest with you. Not because, see, you could be the most confident guy in the world, right? You can think you can conquer the world. You can be Alexander the Great. But there are times when you're not. Like you just realize you're still a human being. Because that sense of insecurity is what makes you continue to strive, continue to become excellent, continue to basically aspire. Life is all about learning, unlearning and relearning again. And if you get into the mindset of not being a refugee, not feeling like an immigrant, then you lose the edge that makes you you. Because I have a startup now, when I used to work for corporate, Gitanjali, it used to be very different, man. I always knew that whatever decisions I'm taking under the umbrella of a company. So, good or bad, all the attribution goes to them. I don't have to worry. So, people looked as a number on a spreadsheet to me till I started a company. But now, people look like people to me and humans to me, with families, with extended networks, with their commitments. And so, it makes you think twice about the decisions you're taking and the obligations and the accountability that comes. So the fact that you have that sense of responsibility and accountability and you feel like a refugee that wants to continuously strive, that gives that extra edge to be accountable for people also. Because the same attitude that I carry to my family, I now carry to everyone around me.
So now let's come to the final question.
Yes.
You escaped poverty.
Yes.
And built great success. So tell me, why did you stop and come back and chose to build technology that helps others rise?
One, I'm not successful. I don't think, if you measure success by the titles I had, the intellectual property I have, or my bank balance, or whatever, that is not measure of success. So hence I chose the journey of entrepreneurship, primarily because I want to build something which is meaningful. And the way I have conceptualized this business and the way I have set up the business is 100% of the equity of my company does not go to my family. It goes to humanity. And my son and my wife are only going to live on my salary. I don't want to corrupt money and any of those things coming in the way. And I want to build a purpose-driven, a mission-driven company. And this is the decision that I have taken recently. Because when my mother passed away, Let me show you this. When my mother passed away, you know how much she left in debts for me? Any guesses? 45,000 rupees. Cremation. So that is the amount she left. And this is what she left for me. Me picking up her remains. So 17,000 was the cremation. 11,000 for the burial ground. 3,000 to transport. 3,000 for the labor in the cremation. 22,000 for all of the items that go with it. And 6,000 rupees for the food. Because she wanted very simple food for the family. 45,000 rupees. She pawned 30 rupees. The exchange value 25 or 45 years later is 45,000 rupees. That's it. That made me realize one thing. We are all chasing what we call wealth. But what is generational wealth? It is not the money that we leave, because like my mother took nothing, and this is not theatrics, by the way. This is fact. I went and picked my mother's remains. Okay? And she had nothing in the bank, because everything she had, she gave it to all her uneducated sisters. She said that money belongs to them because they are not educated. You take care of them. You give everything to them. Set their life, straight. So that liberty that you get, some of these life incidents, you think are so bad for you, but they are trying to teach you something. And it is all, you have to be receptive to that learning. And this is what it taught me. And I decided that at time that 100% of all my equity goes to people and to a foundation that is going to work on people's behalf. Because everyone like me needs a chance. And if I can create that, my son will prosper. There's never going to be a day when he's going to feel lost, because there are going to be so many people rooting for that fellow. That is the best gift I can give him.
Well, with that, Shekhar, I would like to thank you for building the future with conscience, and thank you so much for sharing your inspirational story with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.